how we're going to use the motion matching chooser attack system, which lets you do combos like that. And if I can time this right, we can do a sword attack into a spear attack into another combo like so. And we're also then going to integrate it within our hit reaction system that we have as well inside a combat component, and all of the things are easily transferable, so you can move them across projects, and we can set this up so that an enemy can use it super easily as well. So then we're going to create a new folder and call this combat system, and we're going to be using a blueprint component for the majority of our combat system, so we need to create that. So we have blueprint class, actor component, BPC, combat. And the reason that we want it as a component is so that enemies can use this as well. So we can just add this to our enemy, add this to our player, and they both can use the exact same thing. So we're going to open that up and we're going to dock that. Then the next thing that we're going to need is a enum. So enumeration, which is just a long list of options. So for us, this is going to be weapon type. And if you've already been following other tutorials, you might already have this set up. So I'll put a post to skip this. We're going to open it up, click add enumerator, which adds options. And then we're going to add katana, spear, sword. Add all of your options in here. And then we want to come into our combat system and add 2 new variables. We want a static mesh component, which is an object reference, and another one for weapon type. So we drop the variable type down to weapon type, like so, and select that. So we've just got weapon as a static mesh component type and weapon type as the e-weapon type. Then we're going to create a chooser. So this is going to be the main brains behind our operation. So we want a miscellaneous chooser table. We want a generic chooser with objective type and the result class being an anim montage. Specifically a montage because we want to be able to add notify tracks to that as well. I'm just going to click create that, call that CHT attack table. And then we're going to click on that. And these parameters here, we're going to add one. And it's going to be a class parameter. And the class is going to be our BPC attack, BPC combat system that we've got. And that's going to be an input, like so. And we're just going to save that and dock it so that we can get to it quickly. Add a new input. So we want an attack input. So to do that, we're just going to take interact, Control D, call it IA attack. And then open up IMC Sandbox. Click the add button here. Select IA attack. And where it's got the little keypad, click it and then press the button that you want. So Q, but in our case, it will be left mouse button, like so. Go back to BPC combat, right click, type in IA attack, and we want this one with a little arrow. And on started, we're going to get chooser and evaluate chooser. In details, we need to choose the chooser to evaluate. And this will be our attack table. The data we feed in is going to be self. So we're going to get a reference to self. And the result we get is going to be play montage. I'm going to feed that in. I'm going to right click, get owner. And then get component by class. and this is going to be the skeletal mesh component. Don't worry if you don't understand this yet, I will cover what is actually happening here. We're going to go back to our chooser here, and now that we've linked our BPC combat to it, if I click a ball, we can see that combat is bound to it. So any variables that are in here, we can check in our attack table. So one that we will be checking is the enum, just here, so our weapon type. So now if I add row, we're going to add an asset. These will be our montages. And if the weapon type equals unarmed, then it will play this one. We'll add another one. If it equals katana, it will equal this one. And we can change this to be, if it equals any, we can play this. If it doesn't equal katana, it plays this. So it's basically a massive spreadsheet that it's checking rows and columns to find the answer, a bit like times tables when you were at school. This would be a times table, this would be a times table, they'd meet in the middle, that would be your answer sort of thing. Okay, so we need a couple of variables here. We need a Boolean variable inside of our combat. So we need can attack, so that we're allowed to attack. That needs a default value of true, so hit compile and save and make that true. We need is attacking. That needs to have a default value of nothing. We need a float value for our combo count. That needs to have a default value of 0. If you're not seeing the default values, you just need to compile so that they're there. And we also need a damage variable as well, because we can add a column and we can output a float here. So we can output, if you're not seeing it, we just need to compile again and it appears. So we can output a float of damage here. So this, if this is a sword attack 1, we can say actually if this hits, it does 2 damage. If sword attack 2 in the combo hits, actually it does 5 damage, etc. So we can actually pass values out of here, which is great. So we also need to add a column of a float range, and the float range is going to be our combo count. So if it's on 0, it's this first one. If it's between 0.9 and 1.1, it's going to be the second one. And if it's between 1.9 and 2.1, it's going to be this third one. So this will be 0, this will be 1, and this will be 2. Because we can't check integers, we can only check floats. It has to be set up in this way. A branch from started. So we're going to press B. We're going to hold down the left mouse button and press B and get a branch. We're going to make sure can attack is true. So if we can attack, then we're going to set that we can't attack anymore. And we're going to set that we are attacking. We also want to get owner and get is falling message. So we want to get owner, we want to get another component by class, and we want to get movement component. We want to get the character movement component specifically, and then we want to get is falling, like so. And we're going to add another variable for is falling. We're just going to set that here and put that just in front of the chooser. We can have air attacks as well. So we can add a column, add a ball, and if is falling is true, then we can add another result and say true and have these be false. So these will be ground attacks, and this one will be a falling attack. When we press the left mouse button here, we're going to check if we can attack, which is default to true. Then it's going to set it so that we can't attack anymore. It's going to say that we are attacking. Then it's going to check this to see if we are falling. And then it's going to check what our weapon type is, our current weapon type, what point of the combo we are at, are we falling, and it's going to play the according montage that we're going to add in a sec, and it's going to output the damage that we want. So it's going to set this damage variable to whatever we want inside here. Then we're going to get the owner of the component, get their skeletal mesh, and play that montage on that character. Just untick should stop all montages. So I've got some animations already. I've got these BCD animations from this cool katana pack. I'm going to use these attacks. I'm going to use these 3 attacks. I'm going to retarget them to the UEFN skeleton, like so. And I'm going to get the root motion ones, because I just want root motion ones instead. And I've got this jump attack. So I'm going to export the animations, the ones that I want, put them where I want, just inside this cool katana animations folder, export those. Now they're retargeted, I'm going to right click them and create adding montages so that I've got the blue ones as a montage. And then I'm just going to add the jump attack to the bottom. So, and then the other attacks here. Now I'm inside BPC combat and I'm going to call a custom event. So I'm going to add a custom event here. And this one is going to be start line trace. And we're going to get set timer by event. We're going to have 0.001 and it's going to be looping. I'm going to get this return value and promote it to a variable. And this will be our trace loop. And again, I will talk you through all of this once it's finished being set up. We're going to go from events, we're going to drag out, we're going to get another custom event. And then we're going to call this the loop, or trace loop event. And then from here, we're going to get a trace by channel. And we're going to get a spear trace by channel. Okay. We're going to get weapon from our variables here. And then we're going to get socket location. Duplicate that. In socket name, we're going to type in start. And in the other one, we're going to type in end. And these will go to our start and end locations. And then radius, we're going to put in 10. And on the trace channel, we'll leave it at visibility for now. Draw debug type, we'll say for duration, and actors to ignore, we'll promote that to a variable. From return value, we're going to get a branch. And from out hit, we're going to say break. And from branch true, we're going to say apply point damage, like so. The damaged actor will be our hit actor from our break. The damage causer will be get owner from here. The base damage will be the damage variable that we've got. Our hit info will be our out hit, and hit from direction will be location. Compile that, and that bit's that. And then we're going to make one final custom event. Custom event, call that stop line trace. And we're going to get this trace loop and clear and invalidate timer, like so. So when we call this start line trace event, this runs 100 times a second, 0.01, and this loop is the bit that controls this timer because we've set it to loop in. This is the variable for this timer. The actual loop event, so what's running 100 times a second, is we're going to get the weapon, which is the static mesh we're going to use as a weapon. We're going to get a socket that we're going to set up later on for start and end, and we're going to connect the two together with a spear trace. And when that spear trace hits something like this, we're going to apply point damage. So we're going to apply damage to the event. The damage we're going to be applying is set up here. So depending on what montage it is, the damage that we'll be applying is set up like that. The location is passed into it so we can calculate the hit from location using our choose that we set up previously. And the hit actor is the person that gets damaged, and the person who causes the damage is the owner of this component. We've got actors to ignore, so actually if we hit someone, then actors to ignore, we're just going to add unique to it so that we don't hit them again. Because it's running 100 times a second, there's a chance that while we're doing the same montage, we'll hit them more than once. And we'll get actors to ignore here, and we'll clear it up here. Okay, so when we're choosing an attack, we're saying actually get rid of all the actors to ignore, we're doing a new attack. Just want to add new actors to ignore. Okay. Stop line trace just stops the event running every 100 seconds, 100 times a second. So that's what this is doing just here. Now we need to set up a way of calling that inside the weapon montage itself. So we're going to go to our content folder, we're going to go to blueprint class, and we're going to create an anim notify. So type in the bottom, and we want the state. And we're going to select that and call that ANS line trace, anim notify state line trace. And we're going to receive notify begin. So when we get told to start it, we're going to start it. From mesh component, we're going to get owner. Then we're going to get component by class. And this time we're going to get the combat component. And from there, we're going to say line trace or start line trace, or whichever one you've got. So start line trace. Tick this little box here and make sure that that's fed in there. And then we can just copy these two. So Control C, come back to this override, and on notify end, so paste them here, mesh owner, and then we've got the stop line trace here. And we pass that in here and tick this value. Okay, so we've got our stop and start line trace. We also need to create an event that increases our combo counter, and we're going to make a new custom event. So add custom event. We're going to call this increase combo, and then we're going to get our combo count, and we're going to type in ++. It's going to increase that by 1. So this ++ just adds 1 to the combo count each time. Okay. And then we need an event that resets everything. So another custom event, add custom event, reset all values. Okay, so we're going to get our combo count, set that to 0. We're going to get can attack and set that to yes. And we're going to get is attacking and set that to no. And then actors to ignore. We're just going to clear that as well. Select these and collapse these to functions. So we're going to do that. And same for increase combo. Collapse that to a function as well. Inside of increase combo counter, we just need to add is attacking, can attack, and the actors to ignore as well. So just get them from here. And then in our combat system folder, we're going to go to Blueprint class again. And this time, I'm just going to get an anim notify, like so. I'm going to call it an increase combo. Grab that, go to the override, receive notify, and then we're going to get owner, get component by class, get the combat component, call increase combo, and press the return value as yay. And then we can just copy and paste this increase combo and change the name on it. So right click, change its name. And this is going to be the reset values. Open that up and go to receive notify. And instead of increase combo, we're just going to call the reset values instead. So connect that all up and compile and save. Okay, so we've got these animation notifies. And again, I'll show you what to do for those to work. Okay, so we're going to go to our chooser table. We're going to go to our animation and we're going to open these up. So this first one here, and I'm going to add a notify. So I'm going to right click, add notify. I'm going to add the line trace here, and I'm just going to do it on just where he spins around his sword, like so. And then here I'm going to add a notify to say the combo is increased, and at the end I'm going to add a notify to reset the combo. So what we're doing is we're adding a time frame. So these animation notify states are time frames where we call this blueprint. This blueprint goes through and says, this says, what's the mesh that's doing the animation? Let's get that owner. Get the component of the combat component. And on the begin, so when it starts, start the line trace, which is in here. So this has started this event now. And now every 100th of a second, we're going to check while this is running our weapon and whether it's colliding. And once it reaches the end, then we're going to call the stop line trace. So that's what this receive notify end is. We're going to check the owner again, get the component, and call the stop line trace here. Okay. And that's going to stop any damage. So if they walk into the weapon after that, no damage is going to happen, which stops a weapon being active and damaging anything in its path. Okay. If we reach this point, then we're going to increase the combo. So the next time that we press the button, then our combo will increase. And if we reach this point, we're going to say, actually, we missed the window for the combo. So this is our sort of combo window. If we set those up in each of our montages, so this one is a stab, so it's going from there to there. Add our line trace here. That's quite a long one. And then we'll add our little combo here. So combo increase. Then on the end, we'll reset the combo. And then finally, we'll do the same thing here. So add notify state, line trace, and we'll add, goes all the way there. And because this is the last one, we just need to reset the combo. And I'll take it back to 0 to start all the way from the beginning again. Okay. And now this is just our katana animations. So we can add a new row and change it for our spear and retarget our spear and do the exact same thing for our spear and do all the same sort of checks as well. We're going to need some weapons. So we're going to come up here to Fab, which is the Fab plugin, and we're going to get the fantasy weapons. So there should be a free pack. So if we drop the price down to free, and we can find these free fantasy weapons here. And if we click add to project, and we can select 5.4, which is the latest version of this asset, and that's fine. Okay, add to project. We're going to come back to our sandbox character here, and we're going to add a static mesh at the top, and this will be our weapon. We go back to our character, we click add, and we add our combat component on begin play event possessed. We're going to get our combat component and set the weapon variable, like so, and we're going to just set that to equal weapon. So now every time we begin the game, we're going to set that variable to be our weapon that we need. But we also need to remember to on weapon switch set as well. So what we could do for ease is we're just going to create a custom event called set weapon data. Connect that there. We're going to disconnect it from here. And we're just going to call set weapon data here. If we want it to be even fancier, we could select this and collapse it to a function so that it's not inside our graph. And then we're going to add our variable here. So I'm going to click variable and add, and we're going to drop it down to be our weapon type. And because we're just doing a debug here, just so that we know everything works, I'm going to right click, select 5, get the number 5, and then on weapon type, I'm going to switch on weapon type here. So just drag this out, and then I get for this one, and I set for this one. So if we're in the unarmed stance, I'm going to want to move to the katana stance. And if I'm in the katana stance, I'm going to want to move to the spear stance. And if I'm in the spear stance, I'm going to want to move to the twin sword stance. If I'm in twin swords, I'm going to want to move to magic. And if I'm in magic, I want to move back to unarmed. We're going to get BPC combat and call set weapon type. And then this weapon type that's in our character sandbox, just going to get it and plug it into the combat weapon type. I'm going to connect all these up so that they all connect to this set weapon type. And then just as a good measure, we're just going to put a print string in the top and connect the weapon type to it. So now every single time that we swap weapons, it will swap it here, and it will swap it inside our combat component, and it will tell us what it's doing via a print string. Okay, now you might have a way more dynamic way to swap weapons, but this is a combat tutorial, not a weapon swapping or equipment tutorial. So we're just going to stick with that. When we switch, we're going to get weapon and set static mesh. We want this target static mesh component, and for ease, we're going to put all of these into here, all of these And then from new mesh, we're going to get a select, and we're going to drag weapon type here. So rather than having this node multiple times and dropping it down, we're just going to use a select and change the weapon type. So I want the H to H static mesh. I want the sword, SM sword. I want the spear, and I want, we're not going to do twin sword because that involves having two weapon meshes. I'll show you how to do that last alongside the unarmed stuff as well. Now there is a problem with this static mesh sword, so we're just going to open that up. And the problem that we can see here is that it's upside down. So we need to fix the sword. I've got a full tutorial on how to fix that and why, but I'm just going to do it quickly. So we drag it out into the world, go to modeling tool, X-form, transform, and flip it around so that the middle value is 0. Select complete. Make sure new asset location is current folder, and bake the transform. Now if we press Control and spacebar, we go back and we can see that all the handles are at the bottom and all the swords point up. So the next thing we need to do is back in our character, we are going to go to mesh, go to SKM UEFN mannequin, open that up. We're going to find hand R, and we're going to right click, and we're going to add a socket. And this is going to be our weapon socket. So right click it, click rename, call it weapon R socket. And if we select it, then we can move it around, but we want to just right click it, and we're going to add a preview asset, and we're going to add the sword. And I want this SM sword here, and we can see that the sword is a little bit too high, so we're just going to move that down a little bit, like so, and move it in a little bit as well. And I want to find a position for that and for another weapon as well. So we're going to right click, add preview asset, and the axe. So we get static mesh axe, and we're just going to rotate now this by 180. So click up here and rotate, and then one more preview asset. I'm just going to get this great axe. So now we can see that they're all in the same location that I can hold them. They're all facing the same direction, both forward and their blades, so they don't look silly if I just remove all attached assets. And that's why it was so important to change the sword setup in the modeling tool, so that we didn't have to add every single socket for every single weapon that we want. We can just use one socket for everything. So that bit's done. We'll go back to our sandbox character. We'll select weapon, and we'll select the parent socket to be weapon R socket, and then we'll just reset the transforms on these. So we go back to weapon, reset the location and rotation, and now if I press the number 5, here's our hand-to-hand weapon, here's our spear, and here's our sword. Got everything set up to do our attacks apart from in our weapons meshes. So if we go to weapons, we need to set up those sockets that we set up the start and end of the sockets, just like that. So start, top of the sword, end, where we want the trace to end. And now when we attack, we have a line trace, and it does our combos and our attacks. So that's it for combat, except on before the branch, you can add a event for attack, and then your enemy can use the entire thing as well. So your enemy can just call an attack event just by adding a custom event. Now we're going to go through adding the hit reaction system that we set up before. So what happens after this is hit, after the play montage and the line trace actually finds someone. And then we call event on point damage, and we compare the damage that's incoming. And then this uses the same chooser-based stuff, and then plays the mesh and the skeletal component. The one thing I would say is from the tutorial that sets all this up, we have taken out the random break, and we're just going to get the damage corridor, get the actor's location, use a find lookat rotation, and then put that into B on the delta rotator. So this will get the damaging actor's location and compare it to the receiving actor's location. Okay, and find the lookat rotation for that. Then we get the actor's rotation, so the current one, and compare the two rotations together, and that gives us our damage direction into there. So, as I say, the hit montage setup is in a separate video. This one's already getting pretty long, so go check that one out, have a look at it, and you'll be able to link the two systems together. And then finally, we mentioned unarmed combat, and it's still the same, except that you would have to do a, let me find combat, there we go. You would have to have a new boolean that gets set to say whether it's a left hand or a right hand, because you won't have a weapon, you'll be just doing it off the socket. So you'd be get owner, get component by class, skeletal mesh, and then get socket location, and then you would plug in the bone name, so name of the socket or bone you want to get a transform. So this would be like hand R for a right hand punch. So from the start you would need to do a select like so, and if it was hand R, it would go in here. If it was hand L, it would go in here, and you would need a way of differentiating between the two. So probably with an index, like so, be like right or left, like that. Okay. Then that would do your start and your end locations for each, and be able to switch between them. And the same for like two-handed weapons as well. You need a way of saying whether it's a left hand trace or a right hand trace, being able to switch between them. If anyone gets stuck with that, then drop me a message, and I'll try and help you walk through it for sure.